in the negotiations which are happening. So I think this attempt of giving one theme on biodiversity and then organizing various side events related to that subject. I think that is an attempt to bring it onto the conscience of the delegates, and also an attempt to include it in the text, negotiating text. So there are a number of events which happened yesterday. Not all have been reported, but I think we'll eventually see what kind of activities have been organized. But mostly ocean biodiversity was also discussed. The mangroves were discussed, forests were discussed, and the loss of biodiversity, and what kind of solutions are required through climate action. So many of these processes were led both by government ministers and representatives from international institutions, non-governmental organizations, civil society activists, and of course, climate change, climate activists. I will, tomorrow probably, as we get more information on these side events, we'll try to see what has been discussed there. But as I mentioned, the biggest, event or the step noticeable event was the presence of Lula, who is the president-elect of Brazil. Brazil recently had elections, and the President Bolsonaro was voted out, and Lula was elected. So Bolsonaro, Bolsonaro was intent on destroying Amazon forest. So COP, last COP26 also he was targeted, but he did not budge, and he said we are going to continue to exploit Amazon forest. On the other hand, Lula, even in his campaign theme, he mentioned this, and also in his earlier term, also he was committed to conservation of Amazon forests. So yesterday he was there at COP27 to read out a national statement, and I think this is the only government leader, who received 100% acceptability from all the delegates and different kinds of participants at COP27, because we have seen each national leader receiving some protests, some clapping, or different kinds of responses were there. But for Lula, it was 100% support. And in fact, his statement also gave a lot of hope. So he said there is no climate security in the world without a protected Amazon. So he said the Amazon forest, he linked with the protected Amazon forest with the climate security of the world. I think that's a very direct linkage he has given. And he said Germany and Norway, they have signaled their intention to reactivate the Amazon Fund. There was an Amazon Fund basically to protect Amazon forests, and which was put on the back burner when Bolsonaro was the president. So Germany and Norway have signaled their intention to provide support for Amazon protection. In fact, last year and this year, indigenous community leaders from Amazon, from Peruvian side, there are different countries where Amazon forest is there. So most of them are asking and demanding that Amazon forests are protected, and these indigenous communities need to be supported in the protection. In fact, 3 days back, most of the indigenous leaders declared Amazon emergency because at least 32 climate activists from indigenous communities were killed by the mafia, which is trying to control Amazon deforestation practices. So Lula's speech was very welcoming speech in that sense, and he said we'll spare no efforts to end the deforestation and degradation of our biomes by 2030. So he has also set a target by 80 within next 80 years. We are going to end deforestation in the same way that more than 130 countries have committed to the declaration of leaders of Glasgow on forests. So that last year, COP26, there was a declaration, and is linking up his intent with that declaration. So he says that fight against climate change will have the highest profile in the structure of our government. I think that's again a very significant step which has been declared by Lula. And Lula reinforced his commitment to the climate agenda. I think so. Brazil is going to be part of the climate agenda, which is under discussion at COP27. And another significant step, I think, again, which brought a lot of cheer around COP27 was a text on loss and damage was agreed upon. This is only a text. It will, of course, go to the ministerial committees, and then it will add some political elements into that, and then that will get finalized. So, but the cheer is because most of the other steps of other committees, they have not reached this level of this stage of a draft text being accepted by all the members. So I think that's why it was there. It was steered, and also because COP27 was focusing on loss and damage, especially, and African nations were intent upon achieving some progress on loss and damage. So I think the agreement on this draft text was very welcoming feature yesterday. So the text was on institutional arrangements to operationalize the Santiago network for loss and damage. So the Santiago network was established a few years back as part of a Warsaw implementation mechanism on loss and damage. And this Santiago network text received support. So they decided to operationalize the institutional arrangements to provide technical assistance to countries and communities impacted by loss and damage. So it is being said that this text was agreed upon after G77 groups and China together moved the text after some changes here and there. So this text actually expects that Santiago network will deliver this technical assistance to people and communities on the front line of the climate crisis. So it can go to Tuvalu, it can go to Ghana, it can go to South Africa, it can go to Pakistan, so various other countries which are facing climate crisis. So even this text includes human rights, recognizing human rights, and also indigenous people were also included specifically. So now the text will now go to plenary for final decision under the COP and the CMA. CMA is basically Committee on Matters Relating to Paris Agreement. So the plenary, which is going to happen today and tomorrow, I think there this text will be finally scrutinized and then probably approved. So now focus is on to create a operating entity. So as I was mentioning, for loss and damage, people, developing countries were asking for a separate institutional entity, just like a global environment facility or a green climate fund. So there is this demand for a separate entity for loss and damage, which was opposed by some of the developing countries. But with this text approval, I think it will go to I think that even that facility will also get approved. And yesterday, I know because Brazil and Lula was there, even before that, Brazil, Indonesia, and Democratic Republic of Congo. These three countries have they have more than half of the world's tropical rainforests. Brazil, Indonesia, and Democratic Republic of Congo. So they announced an agreement to cooperate on sustainable management and conservation of forests, and they want to, they are committing themselves to creation of economies that would ensure the health of both the people and the forest. So this is again a significant, goal because in the last 15-20 years we have seen how indigenous communities have been excluded from this forest economy. So I think this initiative is trying to integrate and ensure that both forests and the people are protected. But this agreement does not have any financial backing, and I think in the next few days they are going to call for action on that. And as I mentioned, biodiversity was a topic yesterday, and again there was a discussion on the World Wildlife Fund report, which was released on 8th November on Amazon. So they have issued a report titled Leaving Amazon Report 2022. And this report, in fact, defines a very, very horror story of human destruction of the world's largest rainforest. So this report says 35% of the Amazon rainforest is either totally lost or highly degraded. I think that is a very ominous information for world environment and planetary life. So I think the one is immediately this degradation or deforestation in Amazon rainforest has to be stopped. And luckily Lula has come back to power. So probably that will happen. And the second will be to reforest the area of Amazon which has been deforested. I think that is going to help in carbon cycle, restoring some of the carbon cycles which can help the planet and the decrease in global warming. So this, as I mentioned, G77 plus China proposal on loss and damage, it had 4 or 5 features. One, they said this fund has to be based on the principles of equity and common but differentiated responsibility and respect to capacities. So this looks very complicated, but I think this is trying to bring back equity as a fundamental entry point of entry point basically. So because across 194 nations, there are at least 29 nations in Annex 1 which are considered to have been contributing to pollution historically. That means in the last 100, 200 years, these are the countries which are involved in pollution. So, involving them and also other small countries. So, this says that fund to be based on principles of equity and common, but differentiated responsibility and respect to capacities. And second, there will be a fund at COP27 as an operating entity of the financial mechanism of UNFCCC. Third, importantly, they said it will meet the cost of addressing non-economic and economic loss and damage. Usually property loss or that is seen as a loss in disasters. So, but this facility is trying to include non-economic loss as well. I think there are a number of dimensions of loss which can happen because of climate change. So this text is trying to include most of them, including extreme weather. So it could be extreme snowfall, it could be extreme rainfall, or it could be a very serious and dry, hot weather, and slow onset of events, because some climate events are very slow, like a drought or famine situations are very slow. So these are included, and including rehabilitation, recovery, and reconstruction. So this third point includes most of the scenarios which are expected due to climate crisis. And it's going to be designed through a transitional committee. So there will be a committee of 35 members, which are represented by developing and developed countries. So 20 of the developing countries will be there, and 15 from developed countries. So overall 35 member committee has been agreed upon, and the participation and time bound process will also be defined for the members by 31st December 22. So overall, the design of the loss and damage fund will be approved by COP26. So that is 1 year down the line. But that looks very pretty long because when people are saying already countries are facing a severe crisis due to climate change. But I think given this wide range of interests involved, 1 year may be very early. So hopefully COP28 will see a big announcement on loss and damage fund. But of course, it depends on the cover decision, which is going to be announced today or tomorrow. Now, interestingly, there was this report, if you remember, we were discussing the role of media in climate action and climate crisis, especially about raising awareness, and also why Indian media is also not responding on that. There is a US-based organization. It's called Climate Action Against Disinformation Coalition. So this coalition has identified that there are particular interests who are feeding disinformation, false information, and misleading claims to basically dilute the efforts to bring a solution to the climate crisis. So they found that they have issued a report yesterday, and they found that right-wing media outlets are doing this false propaganda and publishing a lot of misleading claims. So they did this is based on a scientific survey on the media consumption habits of readers in 6 different countries, which includes Brazil, Australia, India, Germany, the United Kingdom, and the United States. So they have done this survey in 6 countries, and they concluded that the Fox News in US remains a significant source of false and misleading information about the climate crisis, fueling unfounded public skepticism, and in a way that could even inspire violence against policymakers who advocate for strong climate action. So, climate action, leaders, political leaders who are demanding climate action, they might become target of readers who are reading this false information. This is what the report is saying. And in India, they say nearly half the population believe that India is leading the world on climate action. So this is again a significant finding because Indians keep getting information that Indian government is doing this, that, and that. So ultimately, they are led to believe that India is leading the world on climate action, which is contrary to the facts, contrary to the reality. So a similar share reported that we should focus on our efforts on technologies such as carbon capture and storage rather than trying to cut carbon emissions. So 47% in India, they believe that climate action can include or the solution can be brought by these technologies which capture carbon from the atmosphere and it can be stored. So this is also a false information because it will take another 3,000 years to capture this carbon from the atmosphere. Already we given the technology. So overall, this report is saying that across the world, there are certain interests who are trying to mislead people and also give wrong information. So I think if you remember last 15, 20 years, there have been climate deniers, basically who deny that there is climate crisis. There are many even today who don't believe that there is a climate crisis, even though a number of scientific papers have come, International Panel on Climate Change, they have issued a lot of reports with data, authentic data, and then most of them peer reviewed. So not only the writers, there are many who have read that and they agree that climate crisis is happening. So some media, some stream of stakeholders, they don't want to believe that, and they try to insert false information in the media so that public opinion is shaped against taking climate action. So I think these kind of initiatives are required in India because in India we are seeing the extremes. One is the media ignoring completely all the climate related problems and challenges, and on the other hand, putting information that India is leading on climate action. So between these two extremes, a lot of shades of information is shared other than the fact-based information. So I hope we'll have more Indian initiatives on such activities. There was yesterday a meeting of senior officials from several governments and United Environment Program, UN Environment Program, UNEP, and UNFCCC. So they launched a new 5-year program to promote climate technology solutions in developing countries. So this, according to them, this new joint work program of technology mechanism covers the period from 2023 to 2027, the 5-year period. So they foresee some specific joint activities, including technology roadmaps, work on gender and technology and nationally determined contributions and digitalization and common areas of work, including national systems of innovation, industry, and water, energy, food nexus. So overall, this is about technology and technology transfer from developed countries to developing countries. So for this initiative, the US has announced a contribution of US $3 million to support the implementation of the joint work program. And of course, in the last 3-4 days, this Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance, there is a alliance formed which includes civil society. It's called BOGA, BOGA. So that is Beyond Oil and Gas Alliance. This has been formed and now they are including more members, and their primary aim is to basically reduce or ban oil and gas consumption. So this again, this alliance is doing a lot of work, and we need to see what kind of inputs they are giving every day at the COP27. Then we have this Climate and Clean Air Coalition to reduce short-lived climate pollutants. So this is not a new coalition. This has been there, and this coalition had a meeting of ministers, basically to step up ambition beyond what has been committed in Paris to address climate and clean air issues at this COP. So the ministers, basically this meeting included state and non-state partners. So not only government officials, even civil society officials were also there. And African assessment is expected to be released today at the ministerial. I think they are going to look at how the work of this coalition has to continue by developing a strategic guidance and leadership document. Then the Indian Prime Minister is there. He has been there ever since COP27 has begun. And yesterday he participated in a meeting of a basic ministerial meet on climate change. So basic means Brazil, South Africa, India, and China. So the 4 countries together have an acronym called BASIC, BASIC. So this basic ministerial meet happened yesterday. But we do not have info what kind of discussions happened at this basic ministerial meet. We'll see if we get some information on this today, then we'll share tomorrow. And Bhupender Yadav has delivered India's national statement. He could not do on 6th and 7th and 8th November because at that time a lot of the senior leaders from different countries were there. So Bhupender Yadav, informed among the goals which are set in Paris Agreement and then their subsequent upgradation and COP26, and also which were revised in the interim period between COP26 and 27. So he referred to all that and also to the movement which is being led by Government of India. It's called LIFE, Life. It is a living for environment, living style for environment. So he mentioned that and he urged the world to join India in this life campaign. And he said India is assuming presidency of the G20 and in 2023. So that is next year with the motto of one earth, one family, one future. So this is the motto which is being pushed by India because it says our journey towards a planet of safe for humanity is one that no nation can undertake alone. This is a collective journey to be undertaken with equity and climate justice as our guiding principles. So we hope that the fight against climate change will unite the world as one family. So this is what Indian national statement read by Bhupender Yadav has reflected. And in terms of presidency consultations, as I mentioned, a lot of subsidiary body meetings happened. But apart from that, presidency, COP27 presidency has been organizing these consultations over cover decision. So cover decisions is the final decision which the plenary agrees upon. So he's been holding consultation. So today and tomorrow, 17 November and 18 November, we are probably going to see more of cover decisions coming out. So in terms of different texts, the progress on different texts, we have at least three major texts to be reported upon, apart from the loss and damage. So the global goal on adaptation, a full draft has been developed, but it has many options, So I think it is still not yet finalized, but the full draft text is there. And secondly, Coronavia Agriculture Program. So they have put together all the text of the nations, but I think they need to come up with a timeline for this what to do with these texts, when to finalize them. I think all that is still missing. So the mitigation work program, I think even that is the text has been slimmed. It was a very voluminous, but it was slim. But there are major disagreements on mitigation work program. And of course, Adaptation Fund has received $172 million in 2022 from for the most climate vulnerable countries. So this is again a significant news which has come yesterday. In terms of new words or concepts, I think we have been listening to that. So this one CBDR, I think it's a very important word or a concept. So it says common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. So CBDR RC is a principle within UNFCCC that acknowledges that different capabilities and differing responsibilities of individual countries in addressing climate change. So that is different capabilities and differing responsibilities. So each one will have a different responsibility. So that is acknowledged. So this principle was enshrined in 1992 UNFCCC treaty, which was ratified by all participating countries. And the text of the convention it says the global nature of climate change calls for the widest possible cooperation by all countries and their participation in an effective and appropriate international response in accordance with their common and differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities and their social and economic conditions. So CBADR-RC has served as a guiding principle as well as a source of contention. So I think as part of the CBDR, the convention divided countries into Annex 1 and non-Annex 2, non-Annex 1. So the former, Annex 1 refers to developed countries and non-Annex 1 refers to developing countries. So under convention, Annex 1 countries have a greater mitigation role than non-Annex 1 countries. So essentially, I think this word is trying to see the differences, but as well as the commonality between different countries. So this concept CBDRRC, I think it was coined long back and it is still effectively holding good. Now, what made US, to dilute its stand on loss and damage is some revelation came just recently today that there are 13 members of US Congress. They wrote a letter to John Kerry, who is the climate envoy of US. So these US Congress members, they wrote a letter to him urging for establishment of loss and damage finance facility. So I think this is again a significant step where US Congress members are closely watching COP process, unlike Indian parliament members. I was told that there is an Indian parliament member delegation which has gone to COP27. We are not sure who are those members and what is the kind of participation they are having. There is no word at all on how they are participating. So not even reported in the media. So ultimately, I think Indian political leadership or politicians or members of parliament, they have not responded as much as people, elected representatives from other countries is becoming apparent. So I think it all depends on the people to push them to take action, to involve themselves so that they can follow the actions which the government of India is taking with regard to climate action. There are a number of comments which came yesterday because, as I said, there is a flurry of activity and COP27 is moving towards ending the negotiations. So there have been a lot of comments. So one of them says we are on the way, especially it's not one, it is by Antonio Guterres, who is the UN Secretary General. He said, we are on the way to a raging food catastrophe and the world appears to be indifferent. So people in 5 separate places are facing famine. At G20 summit, I warned that without coordinated action, this year's crisis of affordability will become next year's global food shortage. So, UN Secretary General is warning us that 5 separate places are facing famine. So they are not in conjunction with each other. They are at different places, and they are facing famine for whatever reason. So he says it is time that we take coordinated action so that this food catastrophe is avoided, or the impact is lessened. No, there was this announcement. I think it appears to be old. Last year survey done by Nature. It is a British scientific journal. So they did a survey of IPCC authors, International Panel on Climate Change, in November 2021. So according to them, then this paper, most of the respondents, climate change scientists, in fact, 88% said global warming constitutes a crisis, and nearly as many said they expect to see catastrophic impact during their lifetimes and not beyond. So that means the global warming is looming, the crisis is increasing, but still we are still stuck at the definitions and quantities and the goals. So I think this journal gives us some information on that. Then someone was commenting that COP27 will anyway fail because there are over 600 fossil fuel lobbies inside a COP and as part of a different country delegation. So because of their involvement, this person sees that there may not be much progress on any of the deals or agreements which happen in COP27. So, but there is still this acknowledgement that forests are crucial to slowing global warming. So I think again the focus is coming on that. Problem is, everyone says they are part of this deal or that partnership, basically to reduce deforestation or reduce carbon emissions. But at the same time, they go back and they approve again the activities which they have negated at COP27. So this dichotomous or inconsistent stand on protecting the earth or its resources from climate change is still not completely imbibed by the government leaders. So they are saying one thing here and they are going back and taking opposite decisions. So soil data, again, there is FAO data which is coming that 33% of soils are degraded. So across the world, the FAO says 33% of soils are degraded. This means the food security angle, which we are saying, is going to suffer because of that. And I think we need to check how fast this degradation is happening. Because, the more the temperature on the earth, I think the agriculture becomes more and more difficult, and most of the land can become fallow and become unviable for agriculture or food production. So I think again this FAO data is very crucial for us to understand. And yesterday, someone from Cannes International, he was saying Sweden is blocking any kind of progress on the support that the EU needs to provide to those communities and states that are suffering climate deforestation. So that is Sweden is now has become a barrier to some deal on loss and damage. So we need to check how, why, and how Sweden is playing this role. Tomorrow it will be Solutions Day. Tomorrow is today, 17th November. It will be Solutions Day, and there are other sessions, including sustainable transport, urban mobility are there, and also planning and design of economic policy. I think this is again a significant topic, and there will be some side events on this on 17th November. There will be a ministerial panel discussion on urbanization and climate change as well. And of course, COP presidency is also expected to announce a initiative which is called SURGE, SURGE. That means Sustainable Urban Resilience for the next generation. So this is again bringing youth into urban resilience. So basically, urban areas are becoming islands of pollution and ill health and contributors for climate change. So I think Sarge is trying to help and building new urban systems. I think that's what I said. But of course, it depends on the climate finance, which is still not yet fructified. So there will be a people's plenary. Yeah, this is significant. On 17 November today, there will be a people's plenary where this is authorized by UNFCCC, and all civil society is gathering within COP27 venue, and they are going to air demands from civil society. So as we have been discussing earlier, they are eager to push some of the demands which are never considered by the delegates of COP27. So, and then there will be a session on integrating air quality in climate mitigation and adaptation to create a healthy urban environment. So I think Hyderabad is eligible to take some action on integrating air quality in climate mitigation and adaptation to create a healthy urban environment. So we need to see if our government leaders are going to be part of this initiative, which is coming up. Coming to our regular, tidbits, which I'm going to share now. So this is I thought this graphic is a very good picture for us to understand how, how Earth land mammals are distributed. So they are given us a clear indication of how humans are increasing. These are the humans, and then you have our pets and livestock, all of them, and of course wild animals, pigs, goats, horses, elephants, all of them are mentioned here. So they are trying to see a comparative comparison of mammals by weight, not in number. So they are saying that they are given a certain weight to that. So each box here is taken as 10 lakh tons. That is 1 million tons. So each Each box has a particular weight of 1 million tons. So this is the, if you calculate all this is for the cattle, and this is for wild animals. This is for the humans, and then this cattle pets, and livestock includes cattle, pigs, goats, sheep, horses, elephants. Elephants, of course, are part of wildlife. So this we can see here clearly wild animals have decreased in terms of, so all this green shows that wild animals have decreased in terms of weight. And apart from us human beings, the weight of our pets and livestock is also increasing. So this livestock, of course, it includes the US, EU developed country livestock, which is mostly factory farming. It's called factory farming or stall-fed livestock. On the other hand, we have livestock in developing countries which are free range, and they can move anywhere. So these they both are included here, but the weight increase shows that the number is very high in developed countries. So I think we need to have this differentiated view of cattle and livestock, and not go by the propaganda which is being pushed by US and other countries. So this is a statement again, I thought very significant. We are not just dealing with a climate calamity, we are dealing with entrenched power, greed, and willful destruction. Politicians are not stupid, CEOs are not idiots, and the board members of S&P companies are not uneducated dullards. They do not need more information. They need souls. So they need a heart, empathy, and commitment. That's what this statement says. And it says this problem is we are still continuing to deal with power, greed, and willful destruction. This is another comparative statement which says coal emissions by region in 2021 and 2050. So by 2050, how much it will be there? This scenario has been built, and here you can see North America is almost nil in 2050, but now it is 1100. Africa, it is the figure has not come, but it is going to become zero or very less in 2050. Europe, it is 1000 now in 2021, and a little far less in 2050. Eurasia is different, but here you can see yellow color. So India will have this, 1700. This is what the number is saying. And it will reduce, but it is still significant when you compare with other piles. So Asia, Africa, again, here you can see China, of course, you can see a very long graph on that. So overall, I think this picture is trying to analyze the climate emissions between 2021 and 2050. So the India is still probably going to use coal, is what this picture is indicating. In fact, India, our Indian delegation, in the last few days has been saying why Western countries or developed countries are targeting coal when they themselves who are not dependent on coal, but their dependent is on oil resources, and they are not announcing similar initiatives or similar push to de-fossil fuel or reduce fossil fuel usage, just like coal. So this equity considerations are being brought up by India. And India, that means India is going to use coal for various reasons. Now, this is another estimate on how much is needed for the different energy system. So, this is carbon capture technology, CCUS, network and storage efficiency, nuclear is yellow, and end use electrification, hydrogen and ammonia, renewables. We can see in electricity, renewables are predicted to grow, or investment is supposed to be there. But again, even nuclear might increase because some countries like Germany and Korea, they think nuclear is the best if you want to avoid coal. So I think, and then this comparison shows that right now in the next 8 years, this is the scenario, and from there upon up till 2050. So that is for 20 years. This is what we are going to see. Replacing electricity generation from existing coal thermal plants, between 2021 and 2050. So again, advanced countries, they are expecting to lower this unabated coal. So coal is sought to be reduced. But here in emerging market and developing economies, it is still going to be a significant contributor. So this is the emission source where which kind of pollution is coming up. So coal is almost half, and industrial processes and waste 33%, natural gas 10%, oil 5%. So, so this is the emission source, and the reduction can happen by prototypes, mature technology, market uptake, and demonstration. This is electricity system cost, comparative cost between different countries, world, United States, European Union, other advanced countries like Australia, Netherlands. Then this is China, India, and other EMD countries. So you can see some costs are different from each country. Each country has a different cost, and I think this is another significant contributor to knowledge. Now, this yesterday there was this report which came that 15 world's largest meat and dairy companies, their combined carbon emissions are higher than those of several of the world's largest countries, which includes Russia, Canada, and Australia. So that means 15 companies are releasing carbon because they have this business of growing cattle and then culling them for animal protein and food. So this is this study says that the contributors here are meat and dairy companies. So 15 companies are there. So we'll see that report tomorrow and day after and discuss it. So this is a text which I've been mentioning. G77 plus China has developed for loss and damage, and this text has received approval. So again, as I mentioned, oil and gas projects are expanding, even though US and other countries, they are saying we'll reduce oil and gas expansion. There has to be treaty on that. On the other hand, they themselves are increasing the expansion in 2022, this year. So you can see the share of US in this, and Saudi Arabia and other countries. So either here Uganda, it is mostly oil than gas, and Norway, it is mostly gas. Angola, it is mostly gas. China is mostly gas. China is backing out from using oil and of course coal. but India does not have so much of clarity on how much it has to reduce. This is someone has prepared how loss and damage discussions are happening between COP26 and COP27. So various developments almost every month have been documented. Women, of course, day before yesterday it was a Women's Day, Gender Day. So they declared emergency to raise climate ambitions on it. So this is Lula, is the president of Brazil. So he's walking into Egypt COP27 venues. This letter which I mentioned, written by 13 US Congress members to John Kerry, asking him to help in creating a facility for loss and damage. So I'll stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll take. Otherwise, we'll have a translation. నిన్న 16 నవంబర్ నాడు అనేక సమావేశాలు జరిగినాయి. చాలా ముఖ్యమైన సమావేశాలు నిన్న జరిగినాయి. ఎందుకంటే ఇంకొక 2 రోజుల్లో COP27 సమావేశం శిఖరాగ్ర సమావేశం ముగుస్తుంది. ఈ ముగింపు వరకు కొంత ఒక ఒప్పందాలు, ఒక రకమైన నిర్ణయాలు ప్రకటించడానికి అందరూ శ్రమ పడుతున్నారు. అందుకే చర్చలు బాగా జరుగుతున్నాయి. చాలా చోట్ల ఇప్పటి వరకు అంగీకారం రాలేదు. ఆ ఒప్పందాల ముసాయిదా కూడా ఇప్పటి వరకు పూర్తి కాలేదు. ఎక్కువ శాతము మన భిన్నాభిప్రాయాలే ఉన్నాయి, కానీ ఒక ఏకాభిప్రాయ సాధన కొరకు ప్రయత్నాలు జరుగుతున్నాయి. అయితే నిన్న లాస్ అండ్ డ్యామేజ్ మీద, అంటే ఈ ప్రకృతి వైపరీత్యాల వలన నష్టపోతున్న దేశాలకు నష్టపరిహారం అందించడానికి ఈ లాస్ అండ్ డ్యామేజ్ ఇవ్వాలని అనుకున్నారు. దాది ఎట్లా, ఎంత, ఏ విధంగా, ఏ వ్యవస్థ ఇవ్వాలనే దాని మీద నిన్న ఒక ముసాయిదా ఒకటి తయారైంది. అంటే ఈ భిన్నాభిప్రాయాలన్నింటినీ ఒక దగ్గర చేర్చి ఒక ప్రాథమిక దశ టెక్స్ట్ తయారు చేయడం జరిగింది. దీన్ని ఇప్పుడు ప్లీనరీలో ఇవాళ కానీ రేపు కానీ ఇంట్రడ్యూస్ చేస్తారు. అది ఒకవేళ ఆమోదం పొందితే లాస్ అండ్ డ్యామేజ్కి మొట్టమొదటిసారి ఒక నిర్దిష్ట నిధులు విడుదల చేయాలని ఒకటి ఉంటుంది. రెండవది, ఆ నిధులను ఏ దేశము నష్టపోతున్నారో వాళ్ళకి అందించడానికి ఆ ప్రక్రియలు కూడా దాని మీద కూడా చర్చలు జరిగి ఒక అంగీకారానికి వస్తారు. ఇప్పుడు ఇవాళ కానీ రేపు కాదు. కాకపోతే అసలు ఏ టెక్స్ట్ కూడా, అంటే వివిధ రకాల అంశాల మీద చర్చలు జరుగుతున్నా కూడా దేని మీద కూడా ఈ దశకు రాలేదు. కాబట్టి నిన్న లాస్ అండ్ డ్యామేజ్ మీద ఈ దశకు రావడంతో చాలా మంది సంతోషించారు, హర్షాతిరేకం వ్యక్తం చేశారు. రెండవది, బ్రెజిల్ దేశంలో ఎన్నికలైనాయి. ఎన్నికల తర్వాత అక్కడ అధ్యక్షుడిని మార్చబడింది. బోల్సోనారో ఉండేది. ఆయన అమెజాన్ ఫారెస్ట్ని, అమెజాన్ అడవులను నరికివేస్తాను, మేము దీని నుంచి ఆదాయం పొందుతామని చెప్పిన వ్యక్తి, ఆయనకు ప్రజలు ఓటు వేయలేదు, ఆయనని అధికారంలో నుంచి తీసేశారు. లూలా అనే ఆయన అధికారంలోకి వచ్చిండు. ఆయన నిన్న COP27కి వచ్చి, మేము అమెజాన్ అడవులను సంరక్షించడానికి కట్టుబడి ఉన్నాము, మేము అన్ని ప్రయత్నాలు చేస్తాము, అన్ని దేశాలతో కలిసి దీన్ని కాపాడితే దీనివల్ల మన కూడమి కూడా కాపాడబడుతుందని ఆయన మళ్ళీ COP27 మీద, COPలో బ్రెజిల్ దేశము చేయాల్సిన పనుల మీద, చర్యల మీద తన యొక్క విశ్వాసము ప్రకటించడం జరిగింది. ఇవి రెండు చాలా ముఖ్యమైనవి. నిన్న అనుకోకుండా ఇవన్నీ జరిగినాయి. చాలా మంది కొంత సంతోషంగానే ఉన్నారు నిన్న అయితే డెలిగేట్స్ కానీ సివిల్ సొసైటీ కానీ. అయితే ఈరోజు ఇంకా 2 విషయాల మీద అందరూ కోరుతున్నారు. ఒకటేమో ఫాసిల్ ఫ్యూయల్స్ మీద ఒక ఒప్పందం కావాలి. శిలాజ ఇంధనాల మీద వాటిని తగ్గించడానికి, వాటి ఉపయోగం తగ్గించడానికి ఒక ఒప్పందం రావాలని ఒత్తిడి పెరుగుతుంది. ఆ ఒత్తిడి నేపథ్యంలో మరి అది ఏమన్నా నిర్ణయం వస్తుందా అని ఆశిస్తున్నారు. ఇక మూడోది నిధులు. ఇప్పుడు మన ప్యారిస్ అగ్రిమెంట్ ప్రకారము అభివృద్ధి చెందిన దేశాలు 100% నిధులు ఇవ్వాలని ఎప్పటి నుంచో కోరుతున్నారు. $100 బిలియన్ ప్యారిస్ అగ్రిమెంట్ కింద దేశాలు ఇస్తామని ఒప్పుకున్నా కూడా అసలు వచ్చింది చాలా తక్కువ. ఏదో వేరే దానికి ఇచ్చింది, దాన్ని ఈ పేరు పెట్టి ఇస్తున్నారని ఒక విమర్శ కూడా ఉంది. మొత్తంగా ఇప్పుడు రేపు ఎల్లుండి జరిగే ఏది కవర్ డెసిషన్ ఈ నిర్ణయాలలో ఈ అంశం కూడా చర్చకు వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉంది. బహుశా ఒక దశకు చేరుకుంటుందని ఆశిస్తున్నారు. ఇవాళ 17 నవంబర్ నాడు అన్ని నిర్ణయాలు ఒక రూపం తీసుకొని వాటన్నిటినీ ప్లీనరీలో పెట్టి ఒక డిక్లరేషన్ వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది COP27. అది 17, 18 మొత్తంగా 19 వరకు ఉంటుంది. సో మనము వచ్చే 3 రోజులు రేపు ఎల్లుండి కూడా మనం వీటి మీద రివ్యూ ఉంటుంది. COP27 వాళ్ళ యొక్క డైలీ ప్రోగ్రాం ప్రకారం అయితే ఈరోజు ముగుస్తుంది. కాకపోతే ఈ కవర్ డెసిషన్లు ఇవన్నీ ఇంకా మిగిలి ఉన్నాయి కనుక రేపు కూడా సమావేశాలు ఉండే అవకాశం ఉంది. కాబట్టి మనము రేపు ఎల్లుండి కూడా ఈ రివ్యూ చేస్తాము. ఎల్లుండి ఆఖరి రివ్యూ ఉంటుంది, ఆఖరి సమీక్ష ఉంటుంది. ఈ రోజుకి ఇది సమాప్తము. మళ్ళీ రేపు కలుసుకుందాం.